Welcome back, everyone, to the European VC podcast. Today, we are featuring someone who's become a bit of a star in the solopreneur ecosystem, someone who's built really beautifully and incredibly with the AI tools that we now have at our disposal. And thus, I also think a very important spokesperson, almost, if not a formal spokesperson, then at least one that is very interesting to behold and dive into the mind of someone who is really pioneering this new era of company building where we don't need to necessarily have large teams. And thus I thought it was super exciting to dive in with Ole today and really understand your mindset. Before we start the show, a quick note. If you're building or running a fund, you know it takes the right partners. At EUVC, we only work with sponsors we truly believe should be part of your tech stack. Please do take a moment to hear about them. And if you do, reach out, mention EUVC. It's the best way you can support what we do. Thank you so much. Starting off, HSBC Innovation Banking. If you're a founder, a scale-up, or a VC, you need a bank that actually understands your world. HSBC Innovation Banking backs innovation globally, from seed to IPO. And if you ask me, a strong banking partner like HSBC belongs in your stack. If your portfolio companies are scaling, they need infrastructure that won't slow them down. Google Cloud Starter Program offers $2,000 to $350,000 in credits, plus technical support to build better and faster. It's a key boost every fund should bring into their ecosystem, and oh my God, are we thankful to be partnering with them. Now, legal is a space you cannot lag on. Legal needs to move at the speed of venture. Goodwin's team has decades of experience with startups and funds. They're trusted at every stage from formation to exit. Goodwin definitely is a legal partner every serious manager should have in their stack. For Luxembourg-based VC, PE, and fund of fund managers, modern funds means going digital. Fundcrafts gives you a full-service, digital native platform built for today's European managers. It's a must-have if you're scaling smart. So we all hear about the Middle East. How about you go there? From AI to deep tech to sovereign fund, SkyTech in Dubai is where global future of tech gets negotiated. It's not just a conference, it's where East meets West, capital meets innovation, and the bold set the agenda. If you're playing on the global stage, join us going to SkyTech this year. If you're gearing up for your next fundraise and want a placement agent who truly understands emerging managers, reach out to C Funds. They're a boutique placement agency that has helped GPs across Europe raise capital from top-tier LPs. We've been on the other side of the table here. They are actually good ones to work with. So I do urge you to go to cfunds.io to go and check them out. And hey, before you go, if you're looking to discover startups, raise capital, or connect with innovation leaders, do check out dealflow.eu, the EU-backed platform bridging founders, VCs, and corporates. There's no better place to find the startups that have received significant funding from the European innovation ecosystem.
This was their finest hour.
Tear down this wall.
It's more than just an alliance. This is a union of values.
Let's start acting.
This show is not investment advice, and the hosts of this episode may be invested in the funds and companies featured.
So Ole, that was how I introduced you. Would you say I'm somewhat correct there, or am I making
No, that was a good one, yeah. I would maybe add that I'm also a content creator, and I do a lot of media as well.
Yes, and I think let's get that bio completely, because not necessarily everyone will know you. So let's get your journey described a little bit. Tell us about how you first started in crypto and then afterwards got into AI and content creation.
Yeah, so I was always someone to just like follow my curiosity and to like totally obsess about the thing that I was into. So I had like a wild journey, starting being in a very creative kind of way of living as a music producer, got into crypto in like 2017, went completely crazy about understanding financial markets in general, then switched to AI. FTX happened, wasn't so good for me, was a little bit fed up with the industry and all the scams that happened. And funny enough, at the same time, ChatGPT came out. I think it was November 2022. So it was 10 days after FTX happened. So you had the complete destruction in crypto, all-time low sentiment. And then ChatGPT came out. And I just played around with it. And it was like one of the few moments I had in my life when I found something and just my mind was blown about the opportunities. And it came from a place of like curiosity and trying things. And I always try to build things in a creative way, creating art, but also creating companies. And that thing like just suddenly I was always used to, I had to ask someone, right? If I want to build something, I had to find something out about marketing. I would need to call my friend, or I would need to pay a mentor. And just having this tool that would get me to this like 70% knowledge, it blew my mind. So this is when I started my AI Solopreneur channel on X. It was kind of the golden days of AI content, and it took off pretty much immediately. It was like a little side project. It grew to like 100K followers, I think in 65 days. So it was like really rapid growth. Started to build a media company like around AI because the demand for education was just insane. It's still insane and still big, but yeah, was one of the first people there to really like build an education business around AI, and then like slowly transitioned more to honestly just like being myself more on the internet, like following my curiosities, which is kind of an intersection of I'm really interested in financial markets, but I'm also really interested in building companies in a creative way. And kind of AI is really the glue for me, because it really enables me to kind of step into all these different roles, to wear, not only wear a green hat for being a podcaster, but maybe wear a red hat for being like my own accountant or a financial analyst. And the next day I can just, do ads myself. So yeah, that's like a rough overview.
Tell me, Ole, just because you described the crypto journey and your love with financial markets, and then also you have the intersection into AI. There's a lot that have said that AI is maybe the problem that blockchain and crypto have been looking for. Do you agree with that? What's your own thinking there?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. For me, I think I tweeted something out a couple of days ago that like now in hindsight, NFTs start to make sense to me also because we have this big discussion right now with the big Ghibli trend, people just using someone else's work in ChatGPT. They take this picture of me with my dog and change it into the Ghibli style. And this kind of started the discussion around like how can we, use copyright in the future when all these LLMs just scrape all the data. And I think especially now it's so easy to create deep fakes with ChatGPT, and we really need a solution to verify data. And I think like blockchains, that's like one of the very strong point of a blockchain is it to use it for something like that. So I'm really bullish on the kind of infrastructure and tech that will really enhance AI. All the stuff that we've seen so far that is like crypto and AI, like most of it's like scammy bullshit. It's like just hopping on a bandwagon, telling someone, oh, we build an agent, but all it does is like tweet shit posts on X. We had some of these go to like $1 billion valuation. I think it's cool that people try out stuff, and I'm really trying to kind of find the silver lining here, like what parts of the tech are actually helpful on which aren't. And I have a friend, they built some DeFi infrastructure right now. So they're working on autonomous agents that just find the best API on something. They take the money that you give them through the contract, and so I think I'm very bullish on stuff like that. But I think we're still very early, so it's to be seen like where this is headed. But like the intersection of using blockchains as like a base layer for AI technology, wherever we need some kind of verification, I'm very bullish on that.
Yeah, and then tell me just 1 second, because I know the next place where you're looking to build is actually not in crypto necessarily. How come you're not super in a rush to get in and building in crypto, given what you just described? And I can maybe add to it, just for context, we had Jonathan from Inflection on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he described, so Jonathan and Inflection used to do a lot of crypto investing, and they have pulled out of it because they said there's a lot of the founders that were excited about crypto have pulled out because they found it too scammy. They found that even when they could raise big money from VCs and build something incredible, the terms would often involve pump and dump schemes that they just felt like this does not make sense for me. So is it a similar reflection for you?
It's definitely part of it. Like it has this really bad rap, and I think too many people exploited like the terms that they could get, just dumping their tokens. I think founders also got rich too fast, and that's the big problem. Like they would raise around, and like the token is kind of immediately liquid most of the time. So they would just dump their token. They would use scammy tactics. So I think it is a real problem. So there's a lot of brain drain from people who were excited about crypto that went to AI completely. And it is a real problem. I think additionally, especially in Europe, there's like even more regulatory burden around crypto stuff, and it's kind of still unclear in some parts of it. So I think that's kind of a bit restrictive. I do think that we are seeing a little bit of a shift, especially in the US. I saw someone like Nikita Beer, who's like a OG consumer app god, and he was recently employed by Solana as an advisor. And like he was like, he was saying he's seeing a shift in opportunities for consumer apps to being built, for example, on crypto rails. I think that's very interesting. If I talk about myself personally, I just think like the burden of regulations is just so heavy, and like the rep is so bad. Like I'm not saying I will never do it, but right now it just seems like it's too much. It's not like the most interesting part for me, especially in Europe right now.
Yeah. And we are actually, I didn't say that in the intro, but we're also going to talk about Europe and the state of tech policy and so on, because I know you're very bullish on Europe and are trying to also do your part in this part of the world. So we will dive into that. But I want to start now, first and foremost, on this solopreneur phenomenon, because it's obviously one that matters a ton to the VC sector, as we're all investing in startups that used to have one model, and we knew that in many cases you needed to build large companies with many people and a lot of money behind it. Then ever since the ChatGPT moment, there's been an increasing conversation about, well, how many people do you really need to build a company? How much money do you really need to build a consequential company? The battle rages on. Some say no, it's never going to change. It's just you'll spend the money on compute. You still need to scale just as much as you've always had to. Yes, the organizations will look a bit different, maybe even completely different, but nonetheless, in the end, the people with the most capital will be the ones that win. So let's not dive into that big discussion, because I think it's fruitless. But I would love to ask you to help us understand the mindset of the solopreneurs, those that set out to build incredible companies, incredible products, but come at it with a mindset of, I want to do this alone, or maybe with my good buddy, or with a couple of friends that I truly trust, and that is it. I'm not planning to be a manager. I'm not planning to be part of the grind. Can you enlighten us a bit on this mindset?
Yeah. So for me, a big part of the shift really started when I kind of started to understand how to build distribution. And in my mind, it was always, you have this idea, you get some money to build it, and maybe like someday it turns out amazing, and like you'll be on this amazing journey. So you have like the glorified, VC route, or like this was like the idea I had about this is how you do startup. And something that I learned was that for me, every tweet is a startup in a way. So I'm looking at it as like, I'm not starting with product market fit. I'm starting with content market fit. So I would like spread some ideas that I have. It could be about a certain topic. Let's take an example, because I've just started building this Build in Europe brand. We can talk about it later. But the way that I thought about, okay, there's something here, it's not that I'm thinking, okay, what kind of startup can I build? So I don't even go there. Like I used to go there, but I think that's wrong. It's like not how you do these things these days. So what I notice is every time when I talk about, what I like about Europe, or like what I'm missing as a European entrepreneur, I would get so much engagement. Also a lot of people that like hate on you, but I think that's part of something that really grows. It always grows with controversial sentiment. What's the same with AI? AI comes out, people are like, oh my God, like I posted about it. This is the worst thing. Like we shouldn't feed the evil beast. The Pandora's box has been opened. Oh my God, we're going to die. So this is always part of it. So, but I was seeing extremely high interest, and I have a lot of data what high interest means. So I'm like, okay, there's something there. So now I ship out different ideas in this space to see, to find out what is the biggest sub interest and where do those match with what I'm good at. So every content piece that you can shoot into the algorithm, it potentially can reach like the right crowd these days. So it's not also not about following anymore. So at the start of every idea now, I'm kind of shipping mini versions of angles on a problem. Doing that, and then later on, like I can go super deep into this, but like I'm using a lot of steps to gather as much data from my audience. This could be They sign up to my newsletter. I'm tell them send me a reply. It goes into a spreadsheet that's analyzed via AI. So or they talk to an agent. I'm working on that now. It's like a continuous collection of data to just find out which is the right problem to tackle. And I think the amazing thing with AI now is, even if I have an idea for a physical product, I was thinking about something, it's a bit stupid, but I was thinking about, weighted vests are like a very big trend right now. I was like, why is there no like weighted vest for a dad where you can put the kid and you go outside with your weighted vest and you meet your like dad buddies and you go for a walk and like you get jacked at the same time. So long story short, I was thinking about that. Today you can just go to ChatGPT and mock up a product. And again, I could use something like that. I can ship it as a tweet, right? Like I still call it a tweet, by the way. Maybe I'm old. I know it's called X, but like yeah. I'm just going to say tweet. I think everyone knows what I mean.
You're soon to become a dad, my friend. So yes, welcome to the old guard.
I can use dad language now. So dad language. So I can ship out the idea, and my point here is, you can test things much faster, and you can also mock up things much faster. If you go into software, you can either, if you're a little bit technical, I'd say you can also build prototypes very fast yourself, and then you can test it. Or you can get someone for like a couple $1,000 to build it for you. So for me, like really the key part is to understand distribution. And understanding distribution used to mean you need to understand how to build an audience. I don't even think that's valid anymore. It's more about understanding what gets attention these days, because with these interest graph algorithms, now every post you do or every video you post on TikTok, it can potentially reach, the whole audience if it had perfect product market fit for, like content market fit for the whole market. So that means it's really essential to understand like the emotional part of the market, like what is the desire that someone has that you could fulfill? What are their problems, to obsess about that part, but then like go to market as fast as possible to validate your ideas. I'm really thinking about this, like to take shots every day at the market and just see what you get back, like without sitting down, with hiring 50 people to work on something that has no demand. I don't think that's the model that will survive in the future anymore. Maybe for some like super crazy,
for the deep tech stuff and so on.
Yeah, because you can't do it in a different way, right? But so that's like excluded. But in my world, I think kind of the amazing unlock is that you can, it's like the meme, you can just do things, right? And you can just do things now much faster, much cheaper, and you can like even do it without most of the risk, because you can just test.
Tell me a little bit, because so you have a community of solopreneurs, and I also know that your community also encompasses people from agencies, encompasses people from large organizations as well.
Yeah.
This approach of content market fit, do you see the average entrepreneur, so to say, leaning into it as well? And obviously here we're talking about digital products more than at least a very heavy deep tech, but let's stay in this realm. It's perfectly all right. It's a big one. But these entrepreneurs, do you see them being very active in your community as well? Do you see your toolbox, so to say, or this way of thinking about the world, do you see it applied across the startups that you're kind of encountering?
No, it's definitely a trend. It's been growing before, but I think especially like founder-led software or founder-led startups in general, it's just getting bigger and bigger. I also think that AI paid, like it's part of it, because with all this AI created stuff, like what I see people crave is the emotional connection. And if it's incredibly easy to spin something up, because that most of the tech infrastructure is easier to replicate, it's easier to basically get to a result that people can use. So I think like also the emotional connection to the product in terms of, okay, this is the founder, this is the way this founder runs this company. It plays a huge part. So it's also incredibly important, I think, for the VC community to understand that this, what some people like maybe joked about, oh, just like the founder shit posting. Why does he do that? It's so bad. It can be bad for sure, like if you don't do it right. But I just see this trend getting bigger and bigger. You also see a lot more of younger entrepreneurs that do a lot of like almost like vlogging, video vlogging on YouTube, like Daniel Dallin, for example, in the e-com space. grown like crazy, and they build huge businesses that way. So there's definitely a trend, and I wouldn't even say there's like a certain demographic. So a lot of people also ask me, right? Like they want to build up their presence online. That's not my main business. So I never wanted to be this, this is how you grow on social media guru, but like I've been doing it so people come to me. There's also a lot of like, CEOs asking me, or like people like from big companies. And so I feel like there's almost like they also feel the urge to do so. So there's also like some pressure from the market that people kind of already start to expect it almost.
Maybe just to explain the mechanic that's underlying what you're describing here, because you said it before, but believe it or not all VCs are on social media all the time and not thinking about building audiences all the time. You described that we now have a movement in the way algorithms work away from building an audience to having this, what did you call it? It's a more topical graph.
Interest graph, yeah.
Yes, the interest graph. So now everything, when you put something out, it's more level set. Whether you're a big account or a small account, it's going to be considered more or less the same. And then if it takes off, it takes off. So that means that anyone has a shot at goal, so to say. Is this true across all platforms, or are there some that have not really picked that one up?
I think it's the biggest switch that happened in the last years that a lot of people slept on. So this is really like what TikTok innovated. They didn't innovate on short form content. They innovated on the idea that the algorithm is better at showing you content than you are in picking it, right? So it's also an AI play in a way. And the TikTok algorithm is amazing. It's scarily amazing, like how well it serves your content. And Instagram did the same. X did the same. So I would say all the major platforms jumped on this train. I still think like you should have like a barbell approach to it, right? So it's like the ones like the viral approach, you shoot your bullets, some like go crazy maybe. And then you have something where you capture attention long term, something like a newsletter where you have like a direct line to your customers or customers, clients, friends, whatever, like to build this line of communication as well. So I think that's really key too. Because that's also the downside of an interest graph, is that it's not like you build an audience and like, oh, every time I post, 10,000 people will see it. So it's like there will be some impact of a following, but it's really small comparing to what it has been before. So it's also coming with challenges. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, all in all, like the whole trend is towards interest graph and away from social graph.
Yeah. Am I right in saying, and I ask this because VCs, of course, are especially in Europe, very active on LinkedIn. Am I right in saying that LinkedIn is one of the platforms that have actually stayed quite true to the social graph?
I think they also turn more into interest graph as well. I'm not sure like how heavy, but they will do the same thing. Like, because what platforms optimize for is time spent on platform, and the like number one prediction of that is kind of that algorithm, because it's just more addictive. I'm not sure like how I would expect that parts of it is also like this. But a little bit less than like, let's say on TikTok.
Now we went into a bit of social media stuff, but it is interesting, and VCs are all building their own small firms, and we all care a lot about being heard all the time for some reason. So with that reason, I did think it was worth pursuing a bit. I want to get back to asking you about the mindset of this new type of founder, the founder that builds on their own and builds with friends. Can you tell me a bit about, and let's use you as the case person. Why did you choose to build like this?
I think the first part really is that you have more freedom. And for me, it was always clear that like the bigger your company is, the more people problems you have. You can hire for that, but like it comes with this huge chunk of problems. And when I saw AI happen, it became like so obvious to me that you could just leverage yourself so much better. And like I'm just thinking about like how can I be maximally leveraged in every dimension, right? So I'm going into the media angle, and this is why I talk so much about content, because content, like sometimes people like they don't take it seriously, but it's leverage, right? I can use one idea and I can tell it to you, or I can share it, leverage, and probably maybe you still see it. but like I have the leverage on the media side. And when AI came out, I noticed that, that's the leverage on the kind of company building side. And the mindset for me always was to give me the possibility to be as creative as possible and to be as leveraged as possible. And I have to be honest, like I never went into this like I don't want to work with anyone, like I don't like people. So that was never my my imperative. I think it was more kind of being this sovereign individual, like who can just do everything myself, or then like hire a little bit later. But like the idea of shipping as soon as possible, I think that always really excited me, and to have this constant feedback mechanism of the market, right? And I was a trader before, so, and I still do some trading, but like way less. But like, if I understood one thing, is like, if you have a pulse on the market, that's like, that's like basically all you have to do to find a product that works. And if you're like a solo founder that uses the media angle, you'll be incredibly good at spotting opportunity and building out these little things. They can grow huge, right? It's not like about the little things, but you can start without having this grand master plan. You just start with something and you take one step and then the next.
Can you tell me, Ole, a bit about how many? So many will know Peter Levels. Peter Levels is known for having built God knows how many companies, God knows how many small products. Some of them generate 100K in revenue, some of them generate 700 or a million or multiple million. And then all together, it all becomes a pretty interesting machine, even if you were to back it as an investor. And then he also describes this process of doing multiple new business tests, so to say, on a weekly basis. Is that also your approach? How many, like, can you tell me how many businesses do you iterate, do you test on a weekly basis? Is that how you work, or?
So I would say like I'm changing the model a little bit. So I really focused on the last one I had. And I think it's also a little bit dangerous to be in the mindset of like, you have the shiny object syndrome, right? To me, I think it only makes sense if you also have enough capacity to build things out. And there's a danger of doing 10 things, and every, like you start one thing and it makes 100K, you do the next thing, it makes 100, and both make 50, you make the next, right? So you just split the revenue with your time. So if it works like that, you should do it. I'm thinking a lot about testing, but I'm testing to find the thing where I'm most confident. So I'm doing the same thing right now with like, I started this Build in Europe thing, and I'll test product angles in that space. But once I find one thing, I'll commit for it, at least for some time, to build it out. And the idea I have about myself is more about like building a portfolio of bets and companies. And I can also totally see myself, if one thing grows big enough, to then hire someone to run that, to do equity split. And I think one of my core beliefs that I haven't shared before here is that I really want to build equity value as well. And I think that's kind of the problem of being a public face. Sometimes it's like that, everything's tied to your face. But if you manage to build a company, then you bring someone in and you kind of build up these little companies, it can become like a substantial portfolio of bets. And that's really the model that I'm going for, away from like, I'm not a creator. I'm like, first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur, right? And I want to build businesses, but I'm using the creator front and the build in public to, make the process faster and to get more opportunities. But in the end, I want to build a portfolio, but it's not maximizing companies per month, something like that. So I can also totally see myself, like going all in with something, at least for some time. But I think like the mental and emotional buildup of most people like me is that we are creative, and we also love the 0 to 1, right? And like if you take this away and you're like, oh my god, now you're just optimizing for like 2% growth every month for the next 10 years, like I want to shoot myself, right? So it's kind of finding the middle way.
I want to test an idea with you. It's not one that I've developed at all, but it's one that's been nagging me a little bit. I imagine there's a ton of very young people that, because they're social media native and AI native, it comes very easy to them, so to say, to build in your way. I've often been thinking there must be a great model behind backing people like this that are early in their development, but you can see they understand it. and then have a portfolio of these guys where they're building everything inside one entity, and then they run with their curiosity, but they built the multiple of these smaller businesses. Do you think there's any?
I was actually thinking about something like that. Not exactly the same thing, but I was thinking about, what like a traditional startup accelerator looks like. And, it seems very different. But I also saw, I think it was the founder of not Gumloop, but the other Gumroad. I think he put out a tweet. It's like, I want to back vibe coders. You just give me 10%, or, I'll just back like a lot of you. And I think it's like an interesting point of time for everyone who's listening who doesn't know what a vibe coder is. A vibe coder is just basically someone who doesn't know how to code manually, but they use stuff like Cursor. Basically, they use AI to code. So we have a new class of developers who just work like that. I think there's an opportunity of helping these people with stuff that's not purely the money part. So I talk to them, and for example, like I think it's more about building kind of a machine that, for example, helps them with parts of the distribution. And I think a lot of people are actually very open to do like good equity splits for that. I think that's a really cool way to support people. The money they need is less. So you could potentially like spread more. If that's like viable for a VC, I don't know. But I think the demand is definitely there to get some capital, but also to, get the networking effect of a VC, right? To get introduction to the right people. It could be very interesting to do something like that, to change the check size, and you could potentially have companies grow very fast in that, narrative. So I'm 100% on board that there's some kind of play to be made here, that has this like accelerator feel to it. But like I think to come to the product with the right angle, the people I talked to, they were open to it. So those were, for example, founders who just created their first app doing, like 10K MRR. But it's like the first try, and I'm like, that's not bad, right? So there's something there, but they like wouldn't go to VCs yet. So I think
No, and VC, the thing about VC is also we have a very specific model. If you're building something that is not going to be basically a good shot at $1 billion in enterprise value, it's just not fundable in most VC models. And for that reason, if you build something that caps out at 10 million or 20 million or something like that, it's not consequential enough for a VC to be able to back you with the portfolio model and the rationale and everything we've promised to our LPs and so on. So I think it's a different model, but I think there's a huge opportunity in building something specifically for that. And I don't know exactly what the portfolio model would look like and the ticket sizes and the offerings, but I'm just feeling like the agency that is with people that are technically minded and understand the market and trends and just want to run with it. I think the opportunity for backing them with a bit of money and assistance so that they're free to do and go all in, I think there's something incredible there.
Yeah. I think for some it's almost only like a couple of months of runway. Like I don't have to pay my apartment. I'm intro to some people. I think there's also a really big opportunity to build a very strong brand around that, because you have this new huge class of people that are not planning to go to Y Combinator, right? Like it's almost like some of them, they're like anti Y Combinator. So they're not laughing, but I think it's just a different mindset, but still they want to feel like as they belong to something. So there's a huge opportunity to create that feeling of, hey, we're actually part of something. We're also almost part of a revolution, because, it's always great to have an enemy. Like you used to do it that way. Now we have this amazing new way of doing things.
Yeah.
And I'm on board.
And it makes a ton of sense, because I think that there's a subsegment of the smartest people that have also realized that happiness does not come from being the CEO of a Fortune 500 company or a unicorn or fast scaling company. And those will say, what are you guys doing? I have that perspective. I love venture. I love the impact of venture. I would never, ever take venture money in a company that I would build, because I know the impact that it has on my life, my family. I have 2 small kids I want to spend time with. I know how I work. When I feel I've promised something big to someone who's given me money and so on, like I know that I would not be able to do that and be the man I want to be to my family. And I think that there's a lot that have realized this before they go out and build something. They know that I'm not getting on that train. I have the brains to do that. I have the ambition to do that, but I also have the insight into myself and what I want to do in this life to know that I don't want to do that. I want to ask you one thing. It's a super practical thing. You've mentioned ChatGPT a couple of times. All VCs are thinking about their tech stack and which model and so on. Is ChatGPT for you the go-to model?
It really depends. So right now, I would maybe use 3 categories. So for all the writing stuff and like more creative stuff, I use Claude mostly, especially for written word. But I'm seeing that like the new 4.5, for example, it is much better at writing as well in ChatGPT. So I'm always constantly iterating that. I'm using Grok a lot lately, especially Grok Deep Research. I also love ChatGPT Deep Research. I think if someone's like a curious person and someone who loves data, that's just amazing. Like it used to take me so long. And for example, sometimes I also write stuff and it would give me some information, and I always also fact check with different AIs. I know it's not 100% perfect, but it usually helps you to like avoid some traps if you like, take data from an LLM and might be outdated and someone will get angry at me on X.
I've literally thought about taking, instigating or creating the rule for myself that I'm only allowed to open my news once a day. And then in that opening of the news, I pick one topic that I then set a deep research analysis up for in the morning. And then that is what I spent that day reading and thinking about. Because I think then you can get much, much smarter than opening 20 times the same news about Trump's new tariffs. Because it's just
that's
commentary on the same stuff.
100%. Like I also, I'm, also content creator. So part of me has to do it, but I'm also actively working on a solution that like minimizes the time I have to spend with stuff that's just hijacking my attention. And I think there's also a huge angle here to build businesses, especially for people that, work with a lot of data. And like, I would totally think that analysts, for example, for VCs, they have to analyze so much stuff and they have to keep on top of the news and top of the industry news and all of that. But to build something that streamlines, what you say, like that really understands what's actually helpful to you, what's actually like bringing you forward in your life, and kind of working against that attention hijack. That's a huge part that I'm trying to do myself with like little things I built myself, but it's actually something I'm interested in building a real product around, that uses different models for different goals. But to come back to your question, I really like the reasoning models of ChatGPT for more complex problems. I know some people are like, oh, I would never put my business data in ChatGPT. I do it. I I just put everything in there. I know there's some, obviously I don't have privacy stuff from like people that count on me, so it's all my own data, but I use it mainly for that, especially the new reasoning models. For image creation, like the new ChatGPT for all image creation is just crazy. You can use it for everything from like product mockups to thumbnail creation to graphics. So that's kind of the next frontier, I think, again, that ChatGPT really, really owned now. But yeah, honestly, those models, I'm not technical enough to get to any limitations on any of them, right? So for me, it's all amazing. I'm not a coder, and I'm not as technical, so I can't answer the typical question. As I think coders have a different understanding, especially when it comes to the reasoning stuff, because they really use the model in a different way. But like I'm just using it as a creativity enhancer and like as my co-founder, as someone who helps me run my operations, and all of the top models work. That's what I can say. So yeah.
And sometimes we just use ChatGPT as shorthand for using an AI tool. I cannot let you go without talking to you about Europe and the Built in Europe project. You described it before as you'd seen this trend that everyone kind of wanted to engage with anything that you put out about building in Europe and the power of Europe and so on. That made it sound a bit mercenary and opportunistic, but I guess there's also a bit more heart in it.
No, for sure. Like I would never put anything out to get engagement. I think that's like the wrong way to build anything, and too many people abuse that. Let's put it like this. So like what I saw was that, I'm a European. I was born in Germany and I live in Europe, but I have a lot of contacts with Americans, and I have, most of my business comes from America. And being a creator on X, like you just get dunked on every time when you talk. You're from Europe. If you like, you have the bottle cap memes, and I'm honest, I was part of it at some point, like just being a bit too negative. And at one point, I was like, if I want any change in Europe, and I was struggling with especially the mindset problems that we have in Europe, and like I was struggling in my own life with friends, with family, who like looked at startups or business as these are people extracting money. They are, if you want to build a business, you are greedy. If it means you're like a bad person, right? I think that's like the one thing that really drives me to be a voice of, Europeans can be ambitious. Europeans are not lazy. Europeans are amazing at building businesses, but to bring some of that, sentiment and mindset back into Europe, man, I just saw a big demand. So like, if you get a lot of shit about something on social media, it usually also comes with a lot of support. So it's a very divisive topic. And with the Europe stuff, I could even tell like a lot of the support, I've made a post today, a lot of the support is actually silent almost. So you get like a lot of likes, but like, it's almost people like they're afraid to speak up, especially on X. That's very like US politics dominated. I just noticed like there's this need of every European founder I talk to. Was like, oh man, I would love to connect to more European founders, and I would love to things to be different. Like I love to build like the sentiment I got is like, I love to be in Europe. I love to be here. I want to be here. I want to build here. And for me, it's like partly is like being part of the change that I want to see, and I want to have a different, I don't know how to call it. It's like a different standing in society. It's like a different interaction with politics. It's and I just saw some people do that on X, and I was like, hey, I like that. And I think it's also cool to highlight more European companies. Most people only talk about the American companies. And once I started to look into it, I was like, that's kind of cool. It's like an interesting niche to be in, to focus on Europe, especially. And also like there's also an opportunistic part, right? I'm very transparent and open. It's like a great overlap for me because there is the clear market demand, something I'm passionate about. And I also think there's like opportunity to, especially now with, I don't want to go too deep into politics, but there's also like almost a drive to build stuff in Europe again, also to build tech in Europe again, because people suddenly realize, like we're heavily dependent on basically everything from the outside when it comes to tech. And you start to see it in defense right now. Like, there are some defense companies growing super big right now. And I think that kind of vibe in terms of, oh, maybe we can build it here, that needs some political shift. And I know it's not easy, but yeah, I'm just trying to play my part here. But it's not only purely mercenary, or it's like not purely because I want to get into politics, right? It's like this intersection of interest for me. I see interesting market behavior, and I think there's also cool opportunities to build product. Could be software product, could be to build like
you're absolutely right. You have so that if we just run through the list, right? You have politicians that are getting very vocal. So that's one product. Then you have Harry Steppings and the team behind the Project Europe initiative, which is also incredible and beautiful and great that we have that. It's definitely also like there's probably few with a better ear to the ground than Harry, and he definitely saw an important thing there. We've built with ourselves with the EUVC. Definitely when we started 4 years ago, there's many that was talking about Europe, but when I started building out our summit that we're calling the EUVC summit, where we're focusing it 100% on charting the path to progress for Europe, I just felt like we gotta reset the narrative, because every single time I open X, it's all dunking on Europe, and it got to be even more than ever from the leading VCs in the US ecosystem, and I just thought, okay, we really gotta do something, because this narrative has to change. So while like initiatives like yours, I welcome it so much. I think it's so important. The only thing one of the things I'm really hoping that will happen on the back of our summit, Project Europe, your initiative, everything that's happening right now, is that the founders and the tech investors that we have in our ecosystem will lean more into politics and policy. And I say politics a bit, and I know it's divisive and not everyone agrees with me on this, but I think that we have to come to an understanding that you have to take a stance. And I don't really care which stance you take, whether you consider yourself a libertarian or conservative or whatever. The point is just that we need to have the open conversations, not just talk about best practices and come out with guides to our policymakers as the experts in this area, but rather we need to, I think, get up on our soapbox and say what we mean and think. I call VCs and founders the closest thing we have to future seers. And for that reason, we just absolutely have to get into it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
do you want to go into
100%,
politics?
100%. Like, I think it's already happening on a small scale. I'm just hoping that, Europe wakes up like how important tech is. Like, I still like, I can't understand like sometimes like why that's so hard to get. And I think we need to make it easier for founders to stay in Europe. Because like every business I'm thinking through, I'm like, I'm bull posting on X, but like every business I'm thinking through right now, 90% I'm getting to the same. Okay, in Europe it's actually quite hard to do it, like to kind of get that barrier down. Because like I know so many founders who would have loved to stay in Europe, but they left to the US because it was just too hard for them. And I think we have the part of policy, in terms of very specific laws. Could be privacy laws, could be whatever. It could be MiCA for crypto, or the AI Act. That's one part. But I think another part, and it's as important, is it's almost like to kind of make ambition cool again in Europe and entrepreneurship cool again. And that's like a mindset thing, right? That's like a mindset shift that has to happen for young people and like how it's going to be done, I don't know yet, but it's so clear that it's, so core to, talk to especially young founders, be like, hey, you can actually build an amazing future. And also to everyone who is not a founder to be like, hey, these are the people, that do something good for us, that build the future. As you said, like founders are the closest that we can like to look into the future. And I completely agree with that. I'm just hoping that the response is not too slow, especially with tech. Tech's moving at crazy speed right now, faster than ever before. I do think that we have the possibility of faster change, which comes from even more geopolitical problems, right? Like we have the war in Ukraine. For example, if you look at defense, there's like an urgent need. They have to do something. It's not like, you can't build the drones because the AI Act, we have to pass 50 laws now. So there's some urgency there. I just hope that there's some urgency to understand like how bigly they messed up of keeping tech in Europe. I think that's like a generational mess up. If you look at, which companies stayed in Europe, it's very, the drill. It's not nothing, but we had like a lot of brain drain of amazing founders who would have loved to build billion companies that you would have loved to have here, right? In Europe. So yeah, I'm just hoping that the political stand.
Yeah, and I completely agree, Ole. The thing, however, is that every VC, every founder will have to make the best decision for their own company.
Yes,
and they
exactly.
should. And right now, too often, the best decision is to move to the States. And that is why I'm thinking very much we need to get into the politics and policy side, because we need to change some of these root causes, which is that when you look individually as a company founder, it makes more sense to move the company to the States when you're doing a bigger round, or if you know that you're going to go there anyway, all these things. So for that reason, it's just, we gotta do both, because it's not enough. And we've been saying it forever that we want people to build here and stay here. And it's like, well, then we got to give them what they need to be here. And we can only do that if we're ready to be a bit divisive, I think. Unfortunately, it's not something that everyone will agree on. And we have to be ready to take the beating publicly for saying it. Not everyone loves Elon Musk. Yes, let's end on that statement. Ole, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I really hope that everyone who listened in today got a bit excited about our small revolution of one-man bands, and just as much about your Built in Europe project. Is it called Built in Europe?
It's called Built in Europe. So for everyone who wants to look at that, you can find me on It's Ole Lehmann on X. That's my main account. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm not that active on LinkedIn, but same name, Ole Lehmann. And if you want to subscribe to the newsletter, you can find the link under all of my posts and in my bio. You can also just search for Built in Europe, Beehive, or Built in Europe, Ole Lehmann with my name, and I will just pop right up. And yeah, it just recently launched, so this is my new baby. I also run a personal newsletter, which I've grown in the last years, which just talks about what I talked about here, like how to build a business in 2025. Goes more into the media sides of things. Like I'm an open book with everything. So in general, if you want to ask me anything, just shoot me a DM. Always happy to talk, happy to help. Yeah.
Ole, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Before we start the show, a quick note. If you're building or running a fund, you know it takes the right partners. At EUVC, we only work with sponsors we truly believe should be part of your tech stack. Please do take a moment to hear about them. And if you do, reach out, mention EUVC. It's the best way you can support what we do. Thank you so much. Starting off, HSBC Innovation Banking. If you're a founder, a scale-up, or a VC, you need a bank that actually understands your world. HSBC Innovation Banking backs innovation globally, from seed to IPO. And if you ask me, a strong banking partner like HSBC belongs in your stack. If your portfolio companies are scaling, they need infrastructure that won't slow them down. Google Cloud Starter Program offers $2,000 to $350,000 in credits, plus technical support to build better and faster. It's a key boost every fund should bring into their ecosystem, and oh my God, are we thankful to be partnering with them. Now, legal is a space you cannot lag on. Legal needs to move at the speed of venture. Goodwin's team has decades of experience with startups and funds. They're trusted at every stage from formation to exit. Goodwin definitely is a legal partner every serious manager should have in their stack. For Luxembourg-based VC, PE, and fund-of-fund managers, modern funds means going digital. Fundcrafts gives you a full-service, digital native platform built for today's European managers. It's a must-have if you're scaling smart. So we all hear about the Middle East. How about you go there? From AI to deep tech to sovereign fund, Skytech in Dubai is where global future of tech gets negotiated. It's not just a conference, it's where East meets West, capital meets innovation, and the bold set the agenda. If you're playing on the global stage, join us going to Skytech this year. If you're gearing up for a next fundraise and want a placement agent who truly understands emerging managers, reach out to C Funds. They're a boutique placement agency that has helped GPs across Europe raise capital from top-tier LPs. We've been on the other side of the table here. They are actually good ones to work with. So I do urge you to go to cfunds.io to go and check them out. And hey, before you go, if you're looking to discover startups, raise capital, or connect with innovation leaders, do check out dealflow.eu, the EU-backed platform bridging founders, VCs, and corporates. There's no better place to find the startups that have received significant funding from the European innovation ecosystem.
This was their finest hour.
Tear down this wall.
It's more than just an alliance. This is a union of values.
Let's start acting.